other column, I'm just putting also issue of words, flexion terminology, what our choice of terminology should be. Was there anything else on flexion, or can we go on to the next concept? Which would be rotation.
We're going to include extension with.
Yes, flexion extension.
Could I ask one?
We got extension, it's up there.
Okay.
Could I ask a question, not
Yes.
knowing whether this falls in there or not? To do the duration through time,
Oh, yes.
do you use a little contact file, small?
What do you
Or is
just
that
attach
something
it?
for later?
Are you talking about the flexion
Yeah,
And extension, yes.
and extension? Whether
Attach
you
it.
use
You attach it.
that,
Yeah, that's what
or
it is.
whether you use that?
With a little C to connect it.
With
a
a
bow.
A linking bow.
Linky bow.
I connect it.
I
Yes.
don't.
I
We
have
have it here, so that's why I'm wondering if we have a thing there.
In Motif, because we don't put dots in between it, you can connect it. But lava notation you can't for it. Which was another reason when the development of trying to put the little ad-lib to put it on the bottom instead of the top, which Dan already pointed out.
But this is a place of difference because these use it both ways.
Different groups use it
Different
within that community,
Yeah.
not in our community, because of the history.
Like some people do
Because they come out of a little nothing.
Not touching it without the bow?
I don't know about in motif though, because there are two separate actors.
And this is one of
Oh,
those.
you know they go together. It looks like a quick contraction and an action stroke. So in motif they.
There's two
they-
conversations going on. You guys want to have to.
Sure.
Sandra was asking, is it possible, or I think she was asking, is it possible to use it without the bow and not touching?
No,
Did anybody do
it-
that?
it's not possible because in motif notation that could mean a flexion
And
followed by a
an
separate
action.
action.
Yeah.
But in lava notation, it's the duration of the flexion.
Okay.
Without the gap, I mean, a little closer.
And there are some things that, I mean, Charlotte, I agreed with you earlier about thinking about motif and lava notation together in terms of looking at follow through threads of theory. But there are times when it's not always appropriate to.
They're different subsystems.
Yeah.
But they're and they obviously have different purposes and therefore different uses and meanings of symbols and different but as a general,
Yeah.
when deciding what the symbol should be, one has to take into consideration exactly that.
Yeah, because it's something to be written a specific way in LN, but you also want to know what all the
You want to
variations
know,
are.
you want to know, and make a conscious decision that we've decided it's going to have a different meaning, but it's okay because it's not going to interfere. Like my problem with this. We don't get into it.
There's a term in language, in linguistics, it's called register. And sometimes you use really formal register when you're trying to be absolutely perfectly clear for posterity, like you would in notating a score. And then there's a more informal style. You know, it's a continuum, but there's an informal style that you recognize that you're in that context of just informal speaking, and that's fine. But it still rests on the fact that people more or less know all the words in the language and how they may be put together.
So I've added up here duration of flexion, and we have the two different ways of writing it. And the same thing with extension.
Sure.
Jan?
I feel that that's a larger issue of duration with all the, what I would call fixed length symbols. Between the notation and between the motif and the different, I mean, just because those solutions came out of having to deal with fixed length symbols, so we have the same problem with body parts
And
effort symbols and shape symbols.
So I'm changing it instead of duration of flexion extension duration of fixed length symbols.
Yeah.
And these are just considered examples.
Right,
We can't put them all, but they're just
Right.
examples.
So we just went into the level of discussing syntax instead of lexicon.
Blank look at the side of the table.
This graduate work in linguistics, but I don't know, it's giving. You're right, makes that distinction.
But I didn't know whether to let it go.
Get right in there and scan. And we also have extra pieces of Anne's birthday cake if you're hungry. Would you like a piece of cake or would you?
I didn't, is your hair wasn't blonde?
Yeah,
That's
I've
what
changed.
you want?
I went to California. My daughter came out of blonde, so I went to a place like that. She took her. On my side. Yes.
Okay.
So Martha, we've made it.
To your right and forward. See you.
Martha, we've been using this movement alphabet sheet, going through systematically and identifying where we have a different understanding of the same symbol, where there's a concept like stillness that we have different symbols for, and where we're in agreement, which is the only empty column. Oh, my dear.
Did we get to the whole body symbol yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We're gone through the first four. We're just getting started on rotation. So the next one is rotation.
Well, at the Ohio thing, there was an interesting discussion about the terminology and what the generic term should be. Should it be turn? What does rotation mean? Does it mean something specific? Is it the word that should be used for so there's the generic concept. So there seemed to be, in my take on it, there was differentiation there between the use of terminology for the generic terms.
Okay, so I've said word. This is another word issue.
Right.
What should be the generic term for what is now rotation?
What is now called rotation?
Yeah.
Or, no, because some people were not calling it.
Well, we need to do something so we know what category
Or
we're
for
talking
this
about.
symbol.
here called?
What is
Yeah.
this symbol, the term for this? The
Okay.
generic.
I was afraid to use the symbol because I had not yet heard anything about whether we agreed on it.
There you go.
Well, I'll put it here, we can erase it.
And these are,
We're also using Post-it so we can move things around if we change when we want something to go.
or any form of term.
So what about the symbol?
Is this the symbol?
Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
But then
We
there's,
get to put something in the same column.
I'm going to put rotation in quotes because until we solve the word issue, and
right,
then I'm putting the symbol.
or turn, is anybody else, what about
Like
or the word
rotation
turn?
/ turn? Is that the?
Maybe.
The words that-
Revolution as opposed to.
Right.
Oh, rotation.
Turn,
Revolution
rotation.
as opposed to rotation, I think was the issue.
And revolution means turning around an axis and turning a pathway.
Anyway, this is all part of the,
Somersault.
okay, there was differences of opinion. And within the family of turn signs, there was some discussion about particular signs around certain axes and whether or not to include an ad-lib sign. The family of turn signs, there was some disagreement about those signs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, right now up there I have rotation
Justice.
/ turn / revolution.
Right.
And then I have that sign, and that sign is in our same symbol, same meaning. Bye, Oona, thank you.
Bye.
Hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Some people would like any indications to have ad lib sign cross.
Exactly. So some people would put
And
it,
other people say, no, that's not necessary.
and that was an issue. So some people would put an ad-lib sign on this sign because it's a generic sign.
The sign is created as a generic sign.
Right.
It's not that we're modifying something that existed.
Yeah, then how in an LN structure, then how would you differentiate between any revolution versus any amount?
Because one's vertical and one's horizontal, the any sign.
The amount would be within the symbol.
And it's
That's where you
vertical.
put the amount.
And just look this.
Comes out like
It
goes
goes
out.
like it does in the direction it comes.
Right, there's that,
Or you could have this.
or nothing.
No.
Or there's
Just any.
But then what's the, but then you're learning, okay, I'm sorry, finish.
I interrupted you. Oh, go ahead.
No, finish what you were gonna say.
Well, and then and now if we're now talking about an amount of turn, is a blank symbol understood to mean turn any amount?
No amount is stated.
Yes,
And then
yeah.
what's to stop somebody from doing that same symbol and the ad-lib running vertically to mean something else yet again?
That means I'm telling you specifically, any amount is okay. You're reinforcing.
No, but I'm saying-
Blankness doesn't state amount, the other one says amount is free.
Yes.
So
Can
are they-
can you draw another?
So are these the same then, you're saying, Ann?
Well, that has two.
No,
No,
saying they're different
no.
as
Can you
tense.
draw,
Slightly different.
can you
The
draw a
tense,
fourth
the tense
version?
is different.
Draw the rotation
The
symbol,
message is
The
slightly.
message is different.
and then a vertical ad-lib going through it.
Going all the way through it?
Yeah, but on a vertical.
What's that?
We don't have that.
It's just not.
Right.
No, but once you start getting into specific things, if then somebody wants to say something else, they'll just create a new symbol and change the ad lib and give it a new meaning. I mean, that's what we've been doing for years.
No, we haven't.
Oh, yes, we have.
There's usually quite a lot of systems.
I've even taken Laban's kinetography book and said, well, I don't like what Laban said anymore about it. I'm going to make up my
She
own
made a
definition.
whole book in her classroom.
That's right. I'm going to take that symbol and just change and do this.
But then you get into the whole issue, if you can make a vertical sign, if the vertical ad lib sign here has one meaning as meaning any amount, then you want to, and how does that difference between the horizontal use of the ad lib sign, is that consistent with the way, no, is that consistent with the difference of other symbols between what we mean by a vertical and a horizontal addition of an ad lib sign? Do you see what I'm
Can I
saying?
just go back and review? We're not all with you, everybody.
Okay.
This one is any amount. Yes?
Is that a question mark or a two? That's just.
It's an ad lib.
Oh, no.
An ad lib
Ah,
sign.
gotcha, okay.
And this one is any amount.
But
Yes.
again, it's got a difference.
It's
It
just
is
kind
a
of
difference.
Nothing is said about amount.
Yeah.
Nothing's addressing amount, it's just
Amount is open.
This specifically
Right.
says do any amount, and what is this one?
Just what some people think is needed, because the symbol is any, they want to put
Any, but it should be vertical, horizontal as opposed to vertical, because vertical and other symbols, for example, flexion and extension, implies amount.
So are you telling me that this symbol over here that we put in the column, that we all have the same symbol for the same meaning,
Oh, yes.
now needs to move and we need to add that other symbol?
About the
No,
ad lib having.
well,
Well, yeah, there's.
some
orientation
people
about-
want across the board, any symbol should have that
Should be
on
horizontal.
it.
Right.
Is that what you think, Ann, or?
No,
No.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's unnecessary.
All right, so what I'm hearing then is this, if for people who have that philosophy, this would be a proposal, but no one's actually using it right now.
We don't know. At Ohio State, some of the people in Ohio were.
Well, we
thinking-
can't know what they're
Okay.
doing at Ohio State. All we can know is what's around the table.
Right,
And
okay.
we make our chart, and then we post it, and then at Ohio State, if they
Okay.
are using it, it's their job to respond and tell us.
Okay.
Right.
Right. We can't,
Go ahead.
we can't, try and figure
How
out
many
what it
hands
might
for
be.
the lower one?
No.
Not your turn.
Charlotte, that's not the issue. Right now, this is something new that no one is using. Is that correct? Is anyone at the table using this?
No.
What we're charting now is what we're using. If no one's using this, this is something that can come up for discussion later, but it's not part of our chart of what's being used by people to identify what's happening now, which is what we're charting now. So if no one's using this, this is not an issue for us right now. Yeah?
Yeah. Right,
Perfect.
good.
May?
The turn either rotation, not that, but turn either. In the motif, you're kind of saying turn either way.
No, we turn around a longitudinal or upward, downward axis.
Right. Either.
It can be
Right or
any
left.
kind of turn. It
Right.
can be cartwheels, somersaults,
Right,
any kind
any
of turn.
axis.
Right.
This is around the longitudinal axis, but
Right.
either direction.
Right, but then in LN it's like neither nor.
No, it means the same thing. Well, it's slightly different, but in
Depending on
terms
where
of,
it's used. It
but-
can mean parallel, or it can mean
Mean
turn the other
turning.
way,
but
depending on context.
But getting beyond, that's another question, I don't know that it's been settled in motif notation or not, but getting beyond, going back to what I thought you were asking originally, it talks about a specific axis.
Right, the vertical.
Whereas this says any axis.
This one is any axis.
Right, right, and that's vertical.
It could be this, it could be this.
Oh, okay.
I raised that one, yes.
I don't know whether we ever talked about this, but I have this vague memory of using the ad lib horizontally through the one on the right to mean either right or left, and saying that was the parallel one.
Uh-huh.
Because I was trying to make a way of differentiating that.
Between them.
And so the blank one was like free choice, whatever, but then the ad lib I thought maybe was like either right or, you know. I don't know. At one point I remember kind of playing with that idea.
Oh, Eileen, there's a much easier way to draw that line.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
That's what I was gonna bring up.
How long it takes to draw that?
No, you just,
I don't
just draw
remember
this,
this, Jan.
and then,
And the two
and-
Two,
No,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
on that one.
She meant on the original.
Oh, yeah.
The one that
Original
we took off is
rotation.
not having it.
Yeah.
The one that we took up is not having a thing. I don't, that was just
Yeah.
somewhere maybe 10 years ago.
I
I don't
this
know.
happened for a little while.
It was just something that I thought maybe Charlotte and I talked about it at one point.
I don't remember, but
I don't
I mean, it's
remember.
again, it's an issue that needs solving.
Well, between either right or left or parallel, but which
but
one
it's
is it?
not
That
something
seemed like
that
a
you're using
glitch.
now.
No. No, we don't need to. So we have to have a representative to stand up
Usually
for that.
it's,
Well, no, it's
Well, I only think that it is possible.
that was a
Yeah.
hypothetical.
Are you playing with it? Are you using it? Have you been using it?
No, I'm just saying that the issue between either right or left and
Or whether you're
parallel as a
Yeah.
concept is never quite been solved for me
No,
unless you
not
guys have a better, so that symbol kind of falls into possible uses, but that's,
Right.
you know, but maybe better to put it on the.
But is that was
here.
something
I don't
that,
know. I
a
just-
concept that's come up and other
Just an
concepts or
issue.
something, as a concept?
I
how you
have it here.
differentiate
I
between
have it here.
parallel?
Under the other column, I have how to write anything within any component. Should all of them have an ad lib sign in there somewhere, or is it not necessary for them to have an ad lib? That's not just the turn, that's the whole picture.
But is Jan talking about another issue?
Parallel.
The
Parallel.
difference between that symbol, or how to differentiate between that symbol, two meanings that it has in lava notation and in motif notation, which is it going to stand for? Parallel, turn either direction? That's the question. And whichever one it stands for, how are you going to indicate the other?
Excuse me, Charlotte, when you're saying parallel, do you mean sequentially, bilaterally?
No, the feet are
Feet are parallel.
You're like standing or
Standing.
you're
In
a
lava
neutral
notation,
position for
it
the
has
arm.
that meaning.
Oh, yeah.
Basically means
For the
both
legs,
feet
for
turn
the
back.
arm.
Yeah, for the arms
It would be
neutral.
neutral.
Right.
Right.
Right, versus,
I think-
normal.
I think that's a more
Or
complex
anatomical.
conflation than the dynamics, because then you're talking about a kind of a pre-existing situation and body part alignment, and really couching it in a different word.
What is normal? See,
Yeah.
Return from
in the
anatomical.
support column, it means either right or left. In the gesture column, it means not rotated. But we even
describe body attitude and behavior.
So we have you begin to use it that way.
And is that differentiation needed in motif notation? That's the question, and yes, it has come up. Then the thing is.
All right, so I put this symbol in this column, and then under the column of same symbol, different meaning, we have parallel or turn either way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie, can I ask?
I just wasn't sure you had said that you had taken that out to use for body attitude?
Yes, yes.
Can you explain what that is?
What body attitude?
Yeah.
Not an
Yeah,
hour.
but that's what I teach.
Well, it comes out of the Alan Lomax's work
Uh-huh.
with choreometrics and the cultural style analysis and the idea that dance styles or cultural movement styles have underlying body attitudes that can be body fixed organizations, spatial or effort organizations. So for instance, in ballet, the body attitude would be a very vertically erect with a very turned out body attitude. And if you have someone who doesn't have that attitude, you go, oh, there's a modern dancer in that ballet class. or a tap dancer has a slightly forward with a parallel, and if you take tap and you come from a ballet background and you turn out and do your things, you look like a ballet dancer doing tap dance. So you have this kind of organization that you operate from that's considered the baseline. You come back and return to it constantly. It's kind of the way you organize yourself to feel and understand that and where that comes from in terms of the history of the style.
Cool.
And so it's called body attitude. And it doesn't mean just body attitude.
And Curran, yes, you can use it with in therapy. A lot of times when you're looking at body alignments, you can see where somebody may have one leg turning out. Postural habits, yes.
Or even
that are
style
fixed.
analysis.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's Sandra taught at NYU. That's where she developed that as a baseline avant-garde. When she was teaching at NYU, they would bring in different kinds of dance style teachers for a certain amount of time, and she would then teach the kind of lob on baselines that would help the students understand, like when they brought in the flamenco dance, you want to think about yourself organizing yourself in this way, but when they brought in a tap, you want to think about yourself organizing in this kind of way. So she taught the lob on terminology from this idea of body attitude. And so that's kind of like a 70s, came out in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s.
So can I ask, sorry, I have a two-part question. The second part is, you said that you're using the parallel or turn either right or left to, as part of the body attitude work.
Right.
How are you using it in that context?
Yeah, it describes stance in that. Okay, so we would look at, for instance, a lot of times playing games with people, will say, well, they have a wide stance, it's in parallel, and this is all motif symbols, and then they come up with.
But you're still using it as parallel.
Exactly.
You're not
You're using it as
meaning. It's just a different application.
Right.
Correct. That's an application.
Right, so it becomes, it's like straight like the love notation.
Thank you.
What are you using if it's just like a natural pedestrian kind of stance? We're not talking rotation, but it's not absolutely parallel in the modern sense, where it's just a little bit more normal and
Yeah, let's get
No,
that.
because
That might be where I was putting the ad-lib to the parallel.
I put the small ad-lib inside the parallel to show just a casual,
Normal within the context.
Right.
within their body context.
Right.
So you're not
You did
forcing the issue,
Right.
you're just,
You did a thing on the theory bulletin board you may not remember about that, but you did.
Yeah.
so we're,
Okay,
So you're back there.
I want
Are
to
you
get
doing back
back
there?
a little bit on track here.
Yeah.
I think we can move on to the next one, and I'm going to move us over to a spring.
No travel. Eileen, may I just,
Oh, we missed traveling, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We'll go back to traveling.
are we going to deal with the other rotation signs?
Yes, because that's what I said,
Okay.
they're not.
Somersault either forward or backward, somersault, cartwheel right or left.
I'm wondering if that may be a second level for the next meeting to if we want to say this is the family priority. But it doesn't have to be, but we can do it now. I mean, just whatever we want to
It
do.
would take too much time.
I think in all the symbols there's need to
Right.
the
We,
underlying
you know, the
This can be
intention
whatever
was
we
to
want.
start, you know, with basics and then get more complex. So not to leave them out, but to,
Sorry, Ann. There may
I'm
even
sorry.
be some symbols, generic symbols that are not on this list.
right.
That need to be
Right.
added.
But we have more lists. But let's go back to traveling. I miss traveling. Uh-oh.
Now, not your new invention.
Yes,
Maybe not my new
invention. I use it all the time.
Okay.
Well, I won't start.
All right,
Yeah.
and now it's being used,
Yeah.
it's being used. What is the symbol, Charlotte? Charlotte,
But you
what is
can
the
sound.
symbol?
Okay, the symbol, can I start with the symbol, all right, the symbol
Why
is,
don't you come on
Go
up and
ahead.
write?
And I put down the symbol that's here on the board.
Yes, I will. Of course I will.
Okay, there are these, this is we're under discussion are these two ideas. And it's a new one, okay.
I'm still back at the old one.
No. I've even, all right. In my mind, the most generic statement that you can make about traveling is that you travel. And I've even gone farther than saying that it's not just about traveling the whole body, but Ray suggested you can travel gesturally. So the notion, what this says to me is just travel. It doesn't say anything about the design that you're making. Of course, when you travel, you're going to be making designs. You're going to travel, you're going to be, you have to, in space, there has to be trace forms. But when I just want to say to you, go, relocate without making anything else relevant. Nothing else is relevant. You're going to be doing it, but that's not the statement I want to make. This is what I make. If I want to make a statement that says, I want you to travel, but also consider the path that you're making. I'm not making a particular statement about the design of the path, but that you're making a statement that you're traveling, and I'm going to be thinking, traveling, maybe making a path, could be any path, but those two ideas are are salient. Then I can go on and differentiate further, as we all know, and we have a whole bunch of other beautiful things. And then there's another thing with meandering. There's a whole other stuff that we could get into, but this means the most basic statement. Travel. So if I